Alrighty, we're rolling. I've made pretty
Good.
much every single post that I think I could possibly make, so I'm gonna fade this shit out. All right, let's see. Okay, all right,
About to start.
and fucking window. Oh my god, there we go. Yo. Oh man, the one and only Mike Hitt, MCM Studios. Making money, making moves, living. How you
Thanks for
living?
having me,
How
dude.
you living, my friend?
Dude, I'm living. That's like I told you when I first spoke to you. It's like, I wanted to be on the show, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I always have things I could talk about. You and me could talk for 20 hours straight. But like right after I spoke to you a few weeks ago, I got sick. I got the COVID. And I'm not like I'm not an anti-masker. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I didn't think it was fake. I always wear my mask. I always do what I'm supposed to do. I'm always active. I take care of myself. And then I was like, it was crazy, dude. It just, I'm so healthy. Like you said, how you feeling? I'm feeling amazing now. And this is actually, yesterday was the first day where I'm like, I feel fantastic. But up until yesterday, it always felt like if your lungs are a bag, like someone was like, you're trying to push air in the bags and they're squeezing the bags. And that was non-stop.
Damn, dude. Your boy. Fuck, man. Well, I'm glad you're all right, man. And, that's the thing that's like, I'm with you. I'm not anti this or that. It's a real thing. This shit it's out there. It's gonna get you. And that's kind of like where I'm at too. Is just like, you can do all of this stuff to try to avoid it, but I mean, it gets in your nose parts, man. Like, what are you gonna do? How do you avoid that?
You know what? What's crazy is I didn't lose, like people say, oh, you lose your taste, you lose your sense of smell. I didn't lose my smell. I didn't lose my taste. I didn't throw up. I didn't have the classic things. All I really had on my portion was like I could sleep for 10 hours, dude. And when I got up and for like an hour, you make breakfast, you look out the window, you drink your coffee. I felt like after that hour, I had done 20 hours worth of shit and I just slept for 10 hours. So it was like a barrage of just energy sucking was what like went on for like 2 weeks. And then the last week, it was just hard to, like I said, just hard to breathe, hard to just, you walk from your car to the building and you're kind of like, like that moment where that was like all day long. Just trying to get that. And today's the first day where I feel like, okay, like I don't have that feeling at all. And anyone, just if you can, I can see where so many people passed away because of it. Because I feel like if you are out of shape or you don't take care of yourself or you're a smoker or you're elderly, it's like, and you're talking about someone, I never smoked cigarettes my whole life. I don't drink a lot, all of those things. And it still felt like I was a 30-year Newport smoker.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna zoom in on you. We're gonna fill up the window. I don't know if I actually know it. Your head might be too damn big for this, man. We'll leave it like that. We're leaving it like that. So, my question to you, my friend. I mean, you're somebody that is always grinding. You work nonstop, right?
Yeah.
So, in the 2 weeks that you had this, what did you do with yourself?
Dude, you know what? That's like my friend was like, oh man, you'll be able to, play video games, catch up on movies. You'll be able to make some music. And dude, I didn't do anything. As someone who always is doing, consuming, I'm keeping up on stuff. I literally, for those 2 weeks, even if I wanted to, I couldn't, to the point where it was like, it even took the care out of me. I did not even care to catch up on a show, to make music, I didn't even want it. They say stay in the house for 2 weeks. that is perfectly fine because I didn't even want to leave my house for 2 weeks. I just wanted to, like, even listening to music, dude, it took me 10 days probably to get to a point where things were just somewhat enjoyable again.
Okay.
That's what it was. It just really it just takes all of the drive out of you.
Damn.
And it sucked, dude. But you know what? Luckily, like you said, I'm a person who is always moving and always getting things done. And this is something I tell people too, is, live your life in preparation. So when I actually was someone who got the COVID, I was in a position to where I could take 2-3 weeks off because I spend the other 49 weeks getting stuff done. So it was like, I didn't have to catch up on mixes and mastering. I didn't have to catch up on sessions. I didn't have to catch up on, play catch up financially. Luckily, I didn't have to play catch up in my relationships. It was like, dude, the next 2 weeks are devoted to just completely healing myself.
Yeah.
And that is like the biggest thing is I was ready for it. I just think that's the biggest thing was, let's go. Like I knew at some point, I think everyone's going to get it at some point. We've had it here since last March, and I'm like, every month goes by and I'm like, you're going to the store, you're going to the studio, you're like, okay, dude, I got past this month, I got past June, I got past July. You're like, you're waiting for it to happen. And then like, it finally happened. And I was like, you know what? I was lucky enough for the past 10 months to prepare for this moment.
Yeah, that's all anybody can do right now. You know what I mean? It's just like, what's happening. And at this point, it's like trying to dodge a raindrop. Like,
yes, it's perfect.
And the best thing you can do in the situation is just be like your boy Hitt and just, be a dry French fry, no ketchup. So you got it.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. But what's crazy? In that time, this always happens to me too, is like in the time that I took all the time off, of course, in that time, everybody wanted to like book sessions. They wanted mixing and mastering. They wanted all this stuff. And I'm just grateful that everyone who's a client or gets work done through the studio and me, and they were just so like, hey, you know what, man, get better. And then as soon as you're better and you're able to work and the quarantine's over, I'm ready to come to you. And it's like, as soon as that happened, everyone stood by their word. And as soon as I went back to work, it was like, all right, you ready? I stand behind you. I still want to get this work done rather than hurrying up and just going to somebody else just because I couldn't,
Yeah, yeah. So, all that aside, right? It's been a while since I've seen you or since I talked to you.
Yeah.
I think that the last time I hit you up because I wanted to record vocals and shit with you, and then the world ended. So, that didn't happen, but I haven't talked to you since then. And, but I'm just curious, let's catch up on some other shit. You know what I mean? So you're a pretty quiet guy online. I was trying to make you spit your tea out. You're pretty quiet. You're somebody that doesn't really share their opinion on things.
I try to stay low key,
Yeah. So for anybody that may be watching this that isn't familiar with like who you are, give like the quick rundown on who you are, what you do.
Man, who am I, man? I ask that every day, but on the outside looking in, I'm a music producer, entrepreneur from Pittsburgh who just took myself from nothing to something. I tell this story in the studio all the time to where it was like, I went from 20 years old, sleeping in my car, having nowhere to live, having, not a stable home life upbringing to mid 30s. Now it's like, I have hundreds of clients. I've done hundreds of awesome things, and I've done it all through just hard work and dedication and persistence. And here I am,
Yeah. And, you run MCM Studios. It's a recording studio in the heart of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You've been doing that shit for quite a while now. You had a decade yet?
10 years in October. Last October.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Now, with you exist in this space, a similar space to me, where like we're in this in between, where like we get the opportunity to work with some really cool people, but we're not fortunate enough to work with cool people all the time, and as a result, we kind of have to work with a lot of fuck ups. And you know, what's it like 10 years in, still kind of navigating the fuck ups?
That's a good ass question.
Actually,
dude, I feel like now, I feel like helping the fuck ups has become like my new position, you know, because I just, you know, in the beginning, you know, it's about like you say, you're trying to work with bigger clients and get on and all that. But then I've worked with so many people in so many scenarios that had so many different types of problems that they needed solved, that now I've gotten to a point where working with the people who don't have it figured out is really the people that I like working with now. You know, after working with everyone who like, you know, I'm the man, I got to figure it out, you know, or, you know, whatever sort of ego they bring to the table, it's always refreshing when someone walks in the studio and they go, you know, still in 2021, people walk in the studio and they go, man, I don't know the first thing about making a song, you know, and you and me have made music since the beginning of time, since the dinosaurs were on the earth. And so like they come in and they're like, where do you find beats and how do you write a song and how do you record? And like, what is even being on pitch and on key? And it's just like, it makes me appreciate where I'm at rather than being like, you don't fucking know anything, you know, like just looking at them like, get your shit together. And I, coming from where I'm come from, it makes me like excited to help them potentially get to where they want to go 10, 15, 20 years from now, you know?
No
and a
doubt.
lot of people always say too, they're like, you ever work with artists you don't like? You ever work with like junk artists or anything that's whack? And I'm like, truthfully, every artist seriously
is whack.
Is just this little puzzle, dude.
Yeah.
And some of them, I say this all the time, on a scale of 0 to 100. We'll say 100 being like your favorite signed artist, biggest artist in the world, like whoever you can think of, and 0 being someone they don't even know what an MP3 is. And it's like, all I'm trying to do is move them a little bit every session up that scale.
Yeah. I got that, man. I think that it's really not too dissimilar from what I do sometimes with the podcast, because not every guest that I have on the show is anybody that anybody knows. But it's like, you know, part of what I do is like, God forbid the first time you're ever on an interview ever is on like a big platform, because you're just going to embarrass yourself. So like you can have a shitty interview with me. You got to learn how to talk. So like if you're going to, you know, if you're really trying to get it, you have to learn how to talk to other people. I mean, I've said this before. That was the whole reason I started the podcast, because I was on a podcast and I was terrible at talking to people. So I was like, hey, I think I need to get better at talking to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, dude, definitely. And I was just thinking about this the other day. That's crazy you say that. Is a lot of artists, I see why athletes and movie stars and musicians, they go through media training essentially, because as soon as that camera flips on for like 85% of people, they could be so charismatic, have so much to say, everything. And it's like, as soon as you turn that camera on, whether it's your camera phone, a big interview, start the beat with Sykes, talking with Hitt, whatever, like people are like, hi. And you know, and it's like, you have to learn how to you just have to learn how to pretend that the camera isn't there. Just be yourself without thinking about the camera. And you give a lot of people the gift of, even some of them their first time, being like, oh, so this is what being on camera is like you said, before they really mess up on a bigger platform.
Yeah. And I think that it's also being aware of that. And it's probably something that you have to be aware of too when you're bringing people into the studio for the first time. It's just like, they've never done this before. And you need to like empathize with that and kind of like be careful about like the kind of vocabulary you use around them. They're not going to understand like what a stem is or a punch in or all this stuff. And like, how do I talk to these people in a way that they're going to understand and feel comfortable, so we have, you know, a good product at the end of this, whether it's a podcast or a song or whatever.
Yeah, just give it them. And now I've gotten to, it's funny, like now I kind of feel like Gordon Ramsay in the studio, where like, you know, sometimes I do give them the like, you're fucking up, you donut, you know, and it's like sometimes they really need that feeling, but then some of them you could tell they're very fragile. So I try not to Gordon Ramsay them, but I feel like the less actually like walking on glass and babying them you do, like, no, that's off key. Like there's never a time where I'm like, yeah, it sounds pretty good. I'm like, no, that's completely off pitch, completely off key. And this is how you got to do it if you want it to even sound halfway decent. The more you do that, the more they love you for that, because they know you're not bullshitting them.
Yeah. I think that it's really, really important, you know, to be honest with people in a creative environment. If the end goal, if you're genuine, like if you want to make a good fucking song, you can't let somebody sing off key, even if they're paying you to sing off key. It still has your name on it.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
And the people
I hear that a lot. People be like, well, they're paying. I'm like, no, I'm like, what they're paying for at the end of the day, they're not paying for, you know, a small portion of what you pay for is equipment. A small portion of what you pay for is like a little bit of guidance, but the bulk of what you're paying for when you go to a studio, to me now, as someone who went to a bunch of studios before I opened the studio, is you're paying for that experience and that mix of subjective and objective perspective in order to try to get them and the record in the place that it needs to be. And too many times, I just said this in the studio, it's like someone buys a laptop and a mic and they're like, now I'm a recording studio. No, you're a person who bought a laptop and a mic. And then it's like someone writes a rap down on a piece of paper and they're like, now I'm a rapper. No, you're just a person with some raps on a piece of paper. And I think that, you know, especially in this day and age, everything's accessible, everything's available. Everyone can say that there's something. And you and me come from the times where you can't say you're something until you put the legwork in to become that something. Right.
Yeah.
And so that is like the biggest thing in the studio is now, or the separation when they come to me or they go to like a lot of different places. Just the other day in the studio, they were like, man, I recorded my boy's house. And it was like, we spent 5 hours just like, they were like, I guess dicking around. They're like, in 1 hour with you, I feel like I've done like a month worth of shit.
Yeah. No, I think that there's also definitely something to be said about like working with somebody that isn't your friend.
Yeah.
Not that,
yeah.
You know, I mean, not that you're not people's friend, but you know what I mean? It's a lot different.
No, I do.
You know, like, you know, because like if you got a bunch of like friends that are hanging out like at a house, like, oh, it's cool. Like maybe you can drink and smoke and do this and that, fuck around on your phone, play some Xbox and do all that. But like if you're in somebody else's house that isn't your fucking friend, it's like, well, we're here to work. You know what I mean? It's like almost like, you know, being in school. Like, you know, it's like you're like the university, and then like a home studio is like, you know, like home, like a college course online type of thing. Like, you know, how much work are you really going to put in when you're not like, dude. Environment is so much a part of it, I think. And this is coming from somebody that records out of their own house, but I don't record other people though. So, you know, that's the thing.
I always say, dude, it's like, it's business isn't personal, but when we're talking art and making music, it's a fine line between business and personal. And you actually walk that line the entire time that you have a professional relationship with someone involving creativity, whether you're a graphic designer, a website designer, a videographer, a music producer, a manager to artists. It's like we have to be friends in a sense, so we can kind of like connect with each other on that spiritual level. But then we also have to handle business to where like nobody feels like they got burned. Because like you said, at the end of the day, we're not best friends, but we are friends to a degree.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's so, like, if you stray away from the business side too much, if you like let your guard down, people will walk all over you, and you'll
all over.
And like, there's no way for you to be able to like sustain what you're doing unless like you're firm with, you know, your morals and the business aspect of what you're doing. I think there's like, you know, a part of like being an artist and like working with other artists is like, hey, you know, like we're all counterculture and fuck the man and we're trying to do this for ourselves, right? But then it's like, hey, you know, can you compensate me fairly for the time that I'm giving you? Well, I don't really have any money. And now you're in a predicament because it's like, you want to help somebody, but at the same time it's like, do you want to help them more than yourself? Because it's like, well,
wow. And dude, it's like another thing is, I always think to myself, say you dealing with an artist, you know, which is something I do deal with, artists that like really aren't that serious about doing it, right? They just want to go to a studio to take a picture, say they were in a studio as if they were really putting work in. And sometimes people are like, you know, they try to haggle you on the rate. And I'm like, look, man, I'm like, some people, I tell them, if I left the studio today and I put to the side my dogs, my friends, my hobbies, my personal dreams and aspirations, I'm like, I'm charging you for me to put everything in my own life on hold. And if you're coming here to just fuck around or try to haggle me on the rate, and say I leave this studio and something happens and I pass away, the last thing that I did with my hour of time was be with someone who just fucks around in life. So at the very least, I want out of that a certain dollar amount. And I'm not haggling about that, because I know that the time that I give you as the client is always dedicated time. I put everything to the side every session for 10 years, 40 sessions a week, 12 months a year for every client. Every client will tell you when I come into the studio with you, it's like I don't have my own problems. I don't have my own aspirations. I don't have my own dreams. And my focus is on you. Whether you take that time serious or you dick around with that time, I gave you a unapologetic hour of my time where I wasn't looking at my phone or anything like that. And so that comes with a fee.
Yeah. I mean, damn, tell them how you really feel. Fuck, man.
That's because, you know, people always want something. They always want something for free. They always want to haggle. And, you know, and I get it. Here's another thing. You know this too. We have also paid for things from creative people that have burned us. So on the flip side, some of these people, you know, they're the first time meeting me, doing business with me. And so they don't know. I've had people come to the studio and say, dude, you're the fourth studio I've been to. And if this experience would have been like my last 3 experiences, I would have either gave up or tried to buy some equipment and do it on my own. And I'm so happy I came across you, because now it's like I found somewhere that gets it. And that means the world to me when I meet people like that, because it's a fair, even exchange of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's a really just like unfortunate thing about the realms of music that we operate in that kind of attract fuck ups. I guess there's fuck ups everywhere, but there's just like part of the culture, you know, we'll call part of the culture is to kind of like not give a fuck. And it's like a pain in the ass whenever you are dealing with people that don't realize that, like, oh, like the not giving a fuck thing is actually fake, and you have to give a lot of a fuck in order to pretend that you don't give a fuck and be successful.
Wow. Holy shit. Yes. That's like actors. Like, people think, you know, they meet their favorite actor. We'll say, like, I always hear stories about like Andrew Zimmerman and it'll be, or Guy Fieri or any of these cooking show guys. And they're like, I met him and he was like a dick to me. And I'm like, so you want them to just like, what you don't understand is they're doing a show and you stop this guy at a Starbucks when he just doesn't want to fucking be bothered. And you expect him to like not be a dick back to you.
Yeah. It's like,
it's the same concept.
Yo, do you know how you act? Not you, but like say this back to them the next time somebody says some shit like that. Like, do you know that feeling you get when you're in fucking Target and you see Jeff from high school that you don't want to see and you got to fucking talk to Jeff for like 2 minutes? You know how you feel? That's probably how they feel.
What?
Like you don't
exactly
really. It's like
feel,
you don't
dude.
got a problem with Jeff.
Tonight,
you know, Jeff's fine. Like I don't got a problem with Jeff, but I really don't feel like talking to Jeff right now because I'm just trying to buy fucking mouthwash or whatever the fuck I'm doing. You know, like it's
exactly, dude. Or like people, you know, I'm not nowhere near Anthony Bourdain, Andrew Zimmerman level, but sometimes I'll see people out and they want to like talk about like making music and shit, and I'm like, dude. I tell people all the time, I'm like, when you're at shows and when you see people and you're like kind of excited to talk to them, the last thing you should talk about is an opportunity with them. Talk about the sushi you ate last week. Talk about like the Netflix series that you're watching. It'll probably leave a way more lasting impression.
Dog, you remember that time we got poke bowls?
Yes.
Speaking of sushi, fuck, man. I missed that.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
So good.
So, you know, if we take our own advice here for a second, let's sidestep, stop complaining about musicians. Let's talk about food.
Yes, please.
Food. So, the quarantine has been, you know, maybe not the best for me in terms of, you know, just being home a lot and having potato chips around and things like that. How are you
back to making pizzas and putting whatever on them?
Nah. I haven't bought a frozen pizza in forever, bro.
You held strong.
I've held strong. But I definitely do still have, you know, my problems with some snacks for sure. But this ain't about me. This is about you. How are you eating in quarantine? What have you been doing? What are you putting in your mouth?
That, you know what? That is another side effect of the COVID is I was not hungry, dude. That was another crazy, and I wasn't throwing up or anything if I did eat. I just wasn't hungry at all. It was crazy. I would eat like a bowl of shredded mini wheats, and then I'd be good for like 36 hours. And then I'd wake up and I'd eat, and it would be random the shit that I ate. I'd eat like a huge bowl of mixed vegetables, and that'd be good for like another whole day. And I'm usually someone who like, I go out to eat once, I cook at home. And for these, I've recently just really started eating. Like I had which is really good, like a cauliflower crust pizza. Everyone hyped that up so much about Aldi's cauliflower crust pepperoni pizza. And so I finally went and got one. And let me tell you something. You want to put a pizza in your house, Sykes? Buy that pizza, because you can eat the whole pizza, not feel like shit at all. And there's like really not a lot, even if you split it with a friend or your girl, not a lot of calories. So that is probably like the highlight of my quarantine food is cauliflower crust pizza. And I've already ate like 5 of those things.
So, you know, speaking of pizza, you ever eat at Doughboys in McKees Rocks?
Never, but now I will, just because you said it.
So Doughboys is fucked up. It is the complete opposite of what you were just talking about. It's called Doughboys for a reason. Like, they do not fuck around. Get the Sicilian, all right?
Okay.
But so Doughboys is on Grubhub now. I don't know how long they've been on Grubhub, but I didn't know, and we found out last night that they were on Grubhub. So I got the most ludicrous pizza sent after me and Stacy had already eaten dinner. After we had already eaten dinner, then we eat, like, you know, not quite half of a large pizza, but we ate more pizza than we needed to. So, it was good. That was good. Shout outs to Doughboys and McKees Rocks.
How do you feel after you eat that, though? You're probably stuffed.
You know, I've gotten so used to feeling like shit all the time. It's just how I feel. It's like, oh, it's another normal day. Fucking bloated Brian just rolling around the house, fucking roly-poly my ass around, just farting.
You were really taking care of yourself though for a little bit. You gave up on it?
No, it's not that bad. I talk bad about myself because it's motivating.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's, I think the biggest thing, honestly, that I need to figure out is like I just need to stop having snacks in the house, because this is what I do. I can, like, if I'm like working on a mix or something, like I can easily not think about food for 72 hours if I'm like in the zone. But almost every night I like sleep eat. Like I will wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just like go to the closet and or the pantry, but it's a closet, whatever. And like, fucking honey roasted peanuts, pistachios. If there's an Oreo, game over. There won't be any more Oreo, like whatever. Like, and like, then I'll wake up like in the morning with that like taste of food in your mouth, like if you don't like that, I'm like, what the fuck? And that's like, oh, God damn it.
That.
Yeah.
Oreos the next morning.
Dude, I do it to myself a lot, and I don't know how to stop that. Like I need to get like a timed lock on the pantry or some shit that like, you'd get for like a bad child. I'm like a bad child in my own house.
You know what I have done? This is good. Now we're talking about food is so probably really, dude, I'm going to say since the beginning of 2020 is I haven't drank any like traditional milk. And I used to drink milk like there was no end to it. And I started drinking this cashew almond silk milk that they have. I could really only find it at Target. And I make that with like a shake with it or whatever. And that's just like a meal replacement. And let me tell you something. Since I've cut out a lot of dairy, dude, a lot of milk, a lot of cheese, a lot of just, if I went from someone who ate blocks of cheese and drank gallons of milk, now I'm someone who probably eats 2 bags of cheese in a year and doesn't drink any milk. And I will say, I don't know what it is. Maybe the health community got it right, but I feel 10 times better than I've ever felt. And I also, other than getting COVID, I don't get like head colds no more. I don't get flus. I haven't been sick. I didn't get sick at all last year. Now that I think back on it, I didn't get the flu. I didn't get head colds or nothing. And before that was like an every 2 month like thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dairy's fucking poison, bro. Like, as much as I love me some pizza and all that shit,
that's the only way.
We try our best to not eat too much cheese. It's around, but I don't fuck with regular milk or anything like that. I haven't in a long time.
Did you ever?
I mean, I guess when I was a kid, but I mean, like, kids fuck with milk. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I see an adult drinking some milk now, and I'm like, grow up.
That's what growing up means.
Yeah.
Quit drinking milk.
Yeah. 2 things that I find like unapologetically adolescent, but it's just me, and like nobody will ever agree with me on this, but I think like drinking milk and smoking weed is like just child shit.
What?
Yeah.
Come on, smoking weed.
I know. Listen.
We're on the verge of federal regulation, and you're saying it's childish.
I'm just trying to start a controversy for the stream. That's all. I don't give a fuck about that. I'm just trying to start. I'm just starting some shit. Man.
Smoking weed. We'll say the cheese, the smoking weed, the drinking, the video games, the like. This is something that is like real coming of age for me the past couple years is I enjoy indulging in all those things, but as soon as they start to take up the majority of your life, I think is when it becomes a problem. And I've been really, because I used to get on myself, especially like I'd be playing Grand Theft Auto and I'd be like, man, am I wasting my time? And I know a lot of people feel like that. It's like, am I wasting my time doing this? Am I wasting my time smoking weed? Am I wasting my time eating cheese? Am I all these things? But everything in moderation. I don't care what you want to do. Just make sure that it doesn't control your life. I think that's the biggest thing. And I get where you're coming from, because there's some adults where, you know, every day it's like, where am I going to get an eighth of weed, a quarter of weed? We gotta smoke weed today. It's 420. We got to smoke weed. And it's like, at that point, it's like, dude, that's your number one priority every day.
I think that, you know, no, I know everybody that I know pretty much smokes. And I think a lot of people are, some of those people are much better off for it. I have no fucking problem with weed, and I don't think it's childish. But the interesting thing, as an outsider, somebody like, I've never smoked. I was never into it, and I've spent my entire life around it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, my dad smoked, my uncle smoked, and kids in school. You know, like it's around. It's always been there. But the thing that I find really fascinating about it, and I don't really ever hear people talk about this, like a lot of people say that like it make you like, it can cause people to be lazy, or it could be a gateway drug. And I don't think that's it. I think the thing that's interesting about weed is I think it like amplifies your true ambition. And if you are somebody that really wants to be like a productive person, you can smoke and really lock in and focus and kick ass. But if you're somebody that's pretending that you want to be productive, but deep down you want to be a lazy piece of shit, the weed is going to amplify that. Because I know people that are, you know, very talented in things that they do, and they start smoking, and all of that goes out the window. And part of me used to think like, oh, the weed made you lazy. And it's like, oh no, it didn't make you lazy. You just didn't really want to be doing this in the first place. And now this has amplified, or like opened up the door, maybe not a gateway to other drugs, but a gateway to your true self. And your true self is just maybe just not that interesting or not that motivated. And that's fine too. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong if, you know, you're an adult that wants to just sit around and play Grand Theft Auto all the time. It's just not like an energy that I fuck with.
Yeah, dude, I get that complete. Being in the studio, I get that probably more than anybody. Like, watching different people smoke weed, even myself, you know, it's funny. There's only like certain clients I'll smoke with, but it never hinders. Like, Hitt is always moving at like a Hitt line, like no matter what. Like, some people be like, you're not high as fuck. And I'm like, no, I feel what you're supposed to feel like being high, no different than your pain going away taking Motrin. But I'm not like sitting here like, dude, I'm blowed. Like, and some people come to the studio and they smoke and they are like this, but then other people come to the studio and they're like, all right, let's do the next song. And then it's like, it like you said, it definitely brings the truth out of everybody. So like, some people smoke, they'll leave the studio, they'll be like, I'll hear them too, they'll be like, I shouldn't smoke next session. And I'll look at them, I'll be like, no, you probably shouldn't smoke. I'm like, I'm not saying smoking's a bad thing, but for you, as far as getting shit done, probably don't smoke before you come to the studio or at the studio.
Yeah. When you're at the studio, you know, what is eating like for you during the day? You mentioned like a meal replacement shake thing. Is that something that you fuck around with a lot?
Shout out my girl, Annette, because she put me on to, which I know it's going to be kind of controversial. Some people see it as like a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme. I'm not in it to make money or do anything. I'm just in it for the shakes. And there's these, I'm just in it for the meal replacement. That's
in it for the shakes, the unauthorized biography of Mike Hitt.
There's a company, it's called Arbonne, and they sell all types of like health stuff, but they have shake powder. It's like chocolate shake powder, and that's what I make with the cashew almond milk. But there's no whey in it. Again, getting away from the dairy. There's no whey in it. It's just all like plant-based protein and stuff like that. And it has like all the vitamins. Like, it's kind of like a multivitamin shake almost. And that's usually what I get at the studio. Like, that's another thing. Like you said, locking in. I could make music 72 hours without thinking about eating. When I go to the studio, if I'm there 12 to 9 p.m., I'll wake up in the morning, I'll have a big breakfast. I'll have like some eggs and coffee and toast. And then I won't eat at all until after I leave the studio. But one thing I do is drink a shit ton of water, dude. I probably drink 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water a day. And that's been like that the last like 15 years of my life. It drink immense water. And that just kind of like staves off the hunger and allows me to stay focused, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently, I mean, honestly, my diet hasn't been too bad. It's really just like that bullshit late night snacks. And honestly, on the weekends, me and Stacy have both been being pieces of shit on like Fridays, Saturdays. Like we're just kind of like, we'll fucking, get on the couch, put on some fucking movies. We have like a couple beers, some fucking whiskey, some fucking cookies and potato chips, order a pizza, like that kind of shit. And
indulgent, dude.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, but yeah, it's a life of excess, and I don't know how sustainable it is, but it's been fun. But during the week, things are usually pretty chill, honestly. I really try not to drink at all during the week.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, we've been pretty good about that. For the most part. And in the morning, little breakfast in the morning, and then like I pretty much just eat dinner. That's it. Like I never eat lunch because I'm just fucking I work through the whole goddamn day, and it's just like I don't even think about food.
Yeah, sometimes, dude, I won't eat. Man, sometimes I do. I'm just like you. I need to tell myself I need to eat before I forget to eat altogether. And then I'm at a point where I'm too messed up. I'm too hungry.
Yeah. So back to the music shit and back to you work a lot in rap, hip hop, R&B, pop, the realm, top 40 and top, well, more like, people that want to be top 40 type shit. Like that's a lot of your clientele, right? So as somebody who is a dinosaur like me, how do you feel about like the current generation of what is going on in top 40 and like songs that are written basically for TikToks?
Yeah. I tell you what, I hate to be that guy, but I got to touch base, especially this just happened in the studio, about auto-tune, right? I just had a guy in the studio. He never been to the studio. And he's like, I'm like trying to get the best performance out of him for the first like hour or so. And, we got him like sounding pretty good, but he wasn't there altogether. And you know how auto-tune kind of puts you in the note that you're supposed to be in, the key that you're supposed to be in of the song. And so I put auto-tune on, and it sounds good, right? Because it's auto-tune. Auto-tune, the whole point of it is sounding good. And he looks at me and he's like, is that what I was supposed to actually sing like? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, the auto-tune is basically like telling you, hey, like these are all the notes that are wrong, and this is why you get that auto-tune sound. And he looked at me and he was like, I always thought that like they were really singing right. I'm like, he's like, so you mean to tell me they actually sing bad and the auto-tune's making it sound good? And I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, that's the whole point of it. And you got to think he had no knowledge of how.
You just destroyed this dude's understanding.
It was a moment, dude. It was a moment of revelation where he was just like, oh my God. And I use that example to just be like, that is one of the things I have to battle at the studio. Is the current climate now is get that hit record, get big, get famous, hurry up and do it fast. Don't build any foundation. Don't build any core values, any core skills. Just make a hit record, make something silly, make something TikTok worthy, and get famous. But you see, the same as I see, the same as 8 billion people in the world see, is 99% of these guys who get that TikTok viral hit, that's the only song that we ever care about from them ever again. And yes, that's pretty cool to have a song like that. And I think one-hit wonders of today are a lot different than one-hit wonders of yesterday, of the one-hit wonders of the 80s and the 90s. I think, those guys still put the work in to, like, they dug deep for that one-hit wonder, and then they finally got it. the difference now is they're not digging deep to make a career or to find that one hit that's going to propel them. All they want is that one hit, and they don't care about putting any other work in. Not all artists, but a lot of artists I meet, they don't care about putting any other work in other than getting that hit record. And even if they blew up, they'd probably stop making music altogether and be like, I'm good, I got that one song. And that is the major difference right now between where you and me started at Beat Battles to right now. When we did Beat Battles, we were like in the lab working on our craft, finding sounds, like studying the producers we're about to go against, and none of that goes on now. They just come to the studio like, so you make me sound good, right? And after I leave here after this 1 hour, I'm going to be famous, right? And I'm like, no, that's not how that works. And I become the rude awakening to them. And then they go to like 5 other studios thinking that they could get that from somewhere. And then they come back to me and they go, Hitt, I realize what you're trying to tell me now. I took it as you were being an asshole. And now I just want to tell you, more times than not, people go, I apologize. I get it now. If I want this, I need to put the work in.
Yeah, that goes back to, what did I say earlier? Like, there's a whole lot of giving a fuck that's required to pretend that you don't give a fuck. You know, and the thing that really, I have a big disconnection with TikTok, and I think my thing with it is like, the people that really blow up on TikTok are people that are blowing up off of other people's content. Like, it's very rare that like say, you know, I'm an artist, you know what I mean? I'm Little Sidestep, and I put I make a TikTok account, right? And I put out a song, and maybe nobody gives a fuck about my video, but like people like the song. And then now all of a sudden, you know, a bunch of 14-year-olds are making dances to it. Like, that's cool. And like, you know, the song's getting shared around, but like, do people care about the song, or they just care about the views because they saw one person get a lot of views doing this song, so they copy the same dance using the same song? It has nothing to do with the fact that they even like your song. They just want the views that they saw somebody else get, and then that domino effects out. It's like the art that's at the center of it doesn't fucking matter. And that, like, maybe I'm just too that's too disconnected.
What makes us old school now is you and me have so much emotional connection to the art and the work. And you know, you like to collect vinyl, and you collect collectors turtle toys, and I collect, like, you know, equipment and like
facial hair
and like video games. And like right now, it's just kind of like there's no connection, like you say. It's just, oh, this is my next come up. Like, this piece of art, this could help me come up. And it's like, let's just abuse this art until it's beat down to the ground and no one cares about it, and move on to the next piece of art.
It's like the idea of just chasing like numbers is really, really strange to me. Where it's like, I don't care what I have to do, I just want to get these numbers. And then what? And then what? And then what do you do? You know what I mean? It's like the equivalent of, like, you know, buying a bunch, like, if I bought fucking 1,000 records, I'm never gonna listen to all of them. I get 1,000 likes. I don't know who these thousands of people are. Like, what's the difference between 10 and 100 and 100 and 1,000? It's like, you know, and like the fact that, like, it's like I always try to think of things like with the podcast. It's like, okay, like, maybe I do an episode and maybe like it gets, like, you know, like 80 downloads on the first day. Okay, like, maybe that's a small number compared to somebody else's podcast. But the fact that 80 fucking people sat down to listen to, like, me and you talk about some shit, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude. That's a lot. And like, I just hate how, like, all of this, like, manipulation, because a lot of it's not even real. A lot of the numbers aren't real by any means. So all of this manipulation has made people feel that, like, their art isn't enough unless they're getting hundreds of thousands of fake views on a thing. And it's just like, no, 100 is plenty fine, especially if you're not nobody. Like, be happy with who you are, regardless of what the numbers are, if you actually give a fuck about what you're doing. But again, there's that disconnect where people, maybe they're not that interested in the art. They just want the views, and they see like the art as a means to get these views. And it's just like,
everything's a joke and a meme now, Sykes.
That's fine.
That's another problem. That, like, everything's a joke, everything's a meme until it hits home for you.
Yeah,
just like Corona.
Dude,
Corona's a joke and a meme, and it's like a conspiracy until you get it, and you're like, all right, maybe this is kind of serious.
Well, I think there's a way to be a joke and a meme and be very successful, right? Like, isn't that like all of 6ix9ine? Basically, like he found a way to, like, you could do it. I think so much of it is like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but don't forget to have a personality.
Yes. Wow. And that's the foundation that I'm telling you, when they come to the studio and they just want to slap auto-tune on. And I tell them, before we slap the auto-tune on, considering this is the first time you've ever been in the studio and the first time you ever made a song, let's just focus on let's just get the best out of you first. Let's see exactly where you stand on the spectrum before we start adding in all of this stuff that's actually diluting your actual ability.
Yeah. I think
like guys, so can we add reverb and EQ? And I mean, all of those are tools, but it's like a lot of time a lot of artists I meet are running from their lack of skill and trying to cover it up in as many ways as they can. And I'm like, look, if you just take the 6 months to the year, it's not going to take long. It's just going to take you taking a couple months to a year. Just like I always use the gym analogy. It's like, you don't go to the gym and you run into the gym. You're like, hurry up working out. You go home. You're like, I got muscles yet? Like, no, like, you go to the gym for like 6 months to a year. You stick to a workout plan for 3, 4, 5 days a week. You stick to the meal plan. And then you can look back after a year and be like, you know what? I'm in pretty good shape. My body looks like where I want it to be. And I think if more people related their art to that process, they would be a lot happier in the end. And we would also have a lot less artists giving up. I see artists give up every week, Sykes. Every week they give up. And the main reason they give up is just because, like you said, it makes them feel like, man, I didn't get these numbers yet. I didn't get these many likes, this many shares. My art must not be good. And I tell people all the time, I hear Hitt records every week. Might be 1, might be 2. Maybe we'll skip a week. We'll hear 3 next week. I say, I hear Hitt records every week. It doesn't make it not a Hitt record because it didn't jump off yet.
Yeah.
It's still a great song that is great representation of you as the artist. But once the song is made, as well as me, now is when we have to put the real work in to get it out there, to make it, to give it life. But the actual piece of art itself, if it didn't do anything, is still amazing. Be happy with that.
Totally. I think that it goes back to that having a personality and giving people a reason to want to talk to you. Because if music is a conversation between you and the listener, right? What the fuck do you have to say that's going to make them want to pay attention to you? Everybody fucking has 5,000 Facebook friends now. Everybody's, through the fucking roof with all of this stuff, thinking shit shoved down our throats all the time. You think about a lawnmower the next day, you got like 10 on your fucking feed. You can't even fucking get away from them. Like, there's all these forces at work against you as an artist, right? So like you gotta have a good fucking reason for people to engage with your work, because there's literally millions of other people that are doing exactly what you do. And if you think that you deserve to be on a pedestal above them, you better have a goddamn good reason. You better not be afraid to tell people about it, because that's the only way they're going to know.
And that's where you just gotta, that's where if you put the groundwork in, as well as me, just like with the podcast, me with the studio, it's like, you might not have 1,000 true fans right now, but if every week you get 1 new fan, that's 52 fans a year. At the end of 10 years, just like the studio, what is that? That's 500. It's like, dude, I have like over 600 clients. I didn't wake up one day, be like, open a studio. Now I got all these clients. No, it's one new client a week, 2 new clients a week. And it's just like with your music, with your movie, with your author of books, whatever, you're guaranteed to get to where you want to get by just, like you said, putting a little bit of work in every day.
Yeah. You know, I think that it's like, I loved it whenever like Billie Eilish blew up and everybody's like, who's this girl that came out of nowhere? I'm like, dog, I had friends sending me stuff that Billie Eilish did like 3-4 years ago. It's like, you know,
Wow.
her and her brother have been making music and out of their bedroom, like probably since she was like 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, sure, she's only 19 now, but she has like, you know, over a decade's worth of experience under her belt now before it blew up. It wasn't no overnight thing. To you, it seems like it was overnight, but it's like, there was a long fucking time. So it's been really cool to see just that particular circumstance because it blew up like wild.
But, and your ear is to the street on things like that. So you would know too, because for me, I knew it didn't just come out of nowhere, but for someone like me, she came out of nowhere for me. But I figured, I'm like, this is probably a lot longer story than it seems.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, like working on stuff for forever and like, you know, super young it did, but it's like, that's the thing. It's like people overlook that stuff. And a lot of people just see like what's happening in front of them and don't think about the backstory or think about the work that was put into it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess you learn real quick whenever you start actually trying to do this, for sure.
Yeah. It's like the first, like usually young kid, like we'll say the range of 18 to 23 is, it's like the first question they ask me, which no, he didn't. It's like a running joke now to me, is the first thing they ask when they come in the studio is, hey, did you work with Mac Miller? As if like, you know, that becomes the defining moment for like, am I a good producer or not? You know what I mean? And imagine if I put all of my weight in, if I'm not a real producer or I'm not a real success until I work with this one person. And I always try to explain to them, I'm like, what makes me a success, what makes me a producer is that I wake up every day and I do the steps that a producer would do.
Yeah.
Not, you know, and maybe working with someone famous, that is somewhere in those steps, but that's not all of the steps.
Yeah.
You know, being a producer is, you know, studying my plugins, listening to new sounds, mixing and mastering new genres, you know, all of that made me a chef, not just because I made one dinner plate for Big Ben. It's like, now you're a real chef because Big Ben ate your meal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because like I've had a lot of people that like come on the show, especially like a lot of younger rappers that come on the show don't know that I have like a hip hop background.
Yeah.
And it's like, dog, like, you know, I played shows with Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa over 10 years ago. You know what I mean? At like the Irish Center, like way back before like anything was anything. Uh-oh. Did you freeze? Hitt froze. Hitt froze. Did I freeze? What's going on?
You hear me?
I hear. Okay, he's back.
All right,
he's back. All right. So yeah, and it's just like so many of these people don't have any idea like who I am or where I came from, and that just goes to show it's like it doesn't matter that I did those things.
It doesn't.
It makes no
wow.
difference. These are two totally different stories. Like we have two different paths. It doesn't matter if our paths crossed at some point in time. It didn't change my fucking story.
Yeah.
So
wow.
It's like they're on their own thing.
Yeah.
But
exactly. Once you can put the value in yourself, that's when you become that. Like I've always thought that of you is you're a guy, you're Sykes. Like you wake up and go, I'm Sykes and I'm going to do the Sykes things that I need to do to be Sykes today. Like I wake up and say, I'm Hitt, I'm going to do the Hitt things. And we don't wake up and be like, I'm going to do like whatever, you know, I'm going to do famous rapper things or I'm going to do famous producer things. It's like, no, like I'm going to do the things that make me me. And that's what I'm going to be in the world, not trying to be something else. And that's something I've always valued in you, is I've always said, like, dude, he's his own person, and we need more people in the world like that.
Hey, man, you know, I don't fucking know. I just do what I do, man. I don't know. I never really thought about anything else. I guess, you know, the one thing I'll tie up on this, and then we're gonna, the sneaky heat missiles are gonna be coming on and playing some jams. You hanging out for a bit, Hitt?
Yeah, I'll chill. Yeah.
All right, word. But the one thing that I wanted to say in regards to that is that I realized that, you know, if I'm going to ever air quote blow up, I want to make sure that I blow up being somebody that I'm happy with being. I don't want to like blow up being a fake character that then I have to, now I'm this character for the rest of my life. I'm no longer myself.
And you know what's funny? You are the character, but you are Sykes. And again, that's what I fucking love about you, is you are Sykes. And what you just said, I love that you said that. Dude, I talk about that all the time, is before you want to go viral, make sure that what you're trying to go viral for is what you want to be known for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that's like people like, you know, they get viral for like going in a store and squirting people with water. And it's now I have 1 million followers. And it's like, dude, you're known for being a dick.
Yeah. What a nightmare. All right. So we're going to let the sneaky heat missiles in the room. Let's get these boys in here. Yo, yo, yo. Clap, clap, clap.